Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. Copyrighted edition for our video channel. This is Huck TV. Yeah, she is the executive producer of the show. Not to be messed with. And Huck's been outside having some fun today. We've been having some fun. Of course, this is her channel, Huck TV. And she wants to say hello. She said, Dad, I'm going to keep you very focused on your work today, so don't mess around. But, yeah, you're a good girl. Yes, you're a good girl. Yes, a good girl. Oh, yes, a good girl. Oh, Dave's a good girl. Yes, a good one. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Says, Dad, no, I want both your hands on that head when you're scratching, not just one. She'll come over and nudge one hand if I'm only using one. Yeah, you're a good girl. All right, people don't want to watch me petting you the whole time, so I'm going to get to work, okay? I know you're mad, but that's okay. Got to get to work. All right. Got a couple of stories for you today that are quite intriguing. Quite intriguing, to say the least. But before we begin, national parks, each national park in the United States has to send into headquarters a National Park Service report of major incidents that happen in the park. I'm sure some of these small parks have hardly anything to report, but some of the bigger ones have some interesting things to say. And I know that there's a large percentage of you that like going to national parks, and I don't blame you, I do too. But I'm going to read you some things that happen in national parks that you probably don't think about right away when you're going in. Now this one occurred, in fact both of these that I'm going to talk to you about today occurred at the Gates of the Arctic National Park in Alaska. First one, August 26, 1996. Said RB, a visitor from Washington, D.C., was fatally injured when he was mauled by a grizzly bear in the park on August 23rd. RB was hiking with one of two rafting companions when they surprised a sow grizzly with a cub. The bear immediately attacked the hikers, killing RB. RB's companion returned to camp, picked up a third member of the group. They returned to the scene, finding RB dead, and covered him with a tarp and attempted to drag him back to camp, which was over a mile away. They soon became exhausted, returned to camp, flagged down a pilot of a passing aircraft who reported the incident. Rangers from Gates of the Arctic and Northwest areas and state troopers were ferried to the site by a Fish and Game Service Super Cub with floats. They rescued the survivors and retrieved RB's body. The attack by the bear was immediate and without warning, giving RB no opportunity to prepare a defense. RB's companion may have escaped injury because he kept walking, ignoring the bear. I got my feelings about this. If I'm with a friend and they're going to go down, I'm going down with them. I'm sorry, that's just the way I am. If they're going to get attacked by a bear, then that bear is going to have one heck of a fight because he's going to have fighting with two of us. To walk away and save yourself, I couldn't live with that memory in my head. Yeah, I saved myself, but my buddy got killed. I understand the mentality. I understand the man lived. I'm not passing judgment. I'm just saying for myself. And this is why it's important to pick your partners, your trail partners. Just like in police work. It's how you pick that partner that's going to save your life, maybe. So, they said it was sudden and they couldn't do anything about it. Well, if his partner walking away had bear spray, which he should have had walking in that area, he could have deployed it on the bear. I've stated a million times that I would have had a big big pistol with me right there. And I would have tried to kill the bear. I might have shot my buddy, saving his life by accident, but I would have tried. So you go into bear area, you always carry bear spray. Always, always. You get up and go to the bathroom, you carry the bear spray. I'm not kidding you. Wednesday, September 16th, 1998. Again, Gates of the Arctic National Park. Now, I read this and I thought, there's no way. Gates of the Arctic is one of the least visited national parks in the United States. It's way up in the middle of nowhere. You can't get there by car. You have to take a boat or a plane. The title is Armed Robbery, Assault, and Arrests. On September 6th, rangers at the Bettles Ranger Station received a message that seasonal ranger Dan McRoberts was reporting an incident of stolen property on the Kobuk Preserve, 120 miles west of Bettles. That's a long ways. Rangers flew into the area. They found that 3 separate groups of hunters floating down the Kobuk River had been threatened at gunpoint by 5 men in a motorized boat that had stolen items from them. Folks, this is bizarre. They found that 3 separate groups of hunters floating down the Kobuk River had been threatened at gunpoint by 5 men. Wow. The hunters had taken refuge at McRoberts' camp as their assailants were still in the area. State troopers were contacted but could not respond until the following morning due to logistical problems. Probably couldn't get a plane or a helicopter to fly them in. The hunters were interviewed and reported that their assailants had passed downstream earlier that morning. Mo McRoberts and a trooper flew downstream and spotted the 5 men 20 miles away outside of the park boundary, floating into their parents' subsistence fishing camp because their boat had ran out of gas. So these idiots that were robbing the hunters went way upstream to rob them and then were coming home downstream, ran out of gas, and now they're just floating back home. But they're spotted by Alaska State Troopers and Rangers outside the park floating in. All 5 were arrested and most of the stolen items were recovered. One of the men had to be pepper sprayed, but the others were compliant. I'm guessing that guy was a real turd. 5 rifles were confiscated. The men were flown 235 miles to Fairbanks and are being charged in state court with 10 counts each of felony assault and armed robbery. Alcohol was a factor in the incident. Oh my gosh. Honestly, and I'm being 1,000% truthful. If I would have been hunting in that area, the last thing I would have been concerned about is facing some assailants on a robbery charge. But I'm reading it to you, and I read it just an hour ago. I couldn't believe it. But it goes to show that you got to keep your head on your shoulders all the time because you really don't know what's going to happen out there. So those are the stories for today. Keep wise, keep aware, and always stay with somebody else. I'm amazed that those 5 people robbed 3 sets of hunters and they weren't shot themselves. I don't know. All right. First story. Australia. Yes, you Australians complain I don't do enough about you. Well, here you go. Jack Mclennan, 27 years old, missing October 4th of this year, 2024. His occupation was a personal trainer in Kingaroy, Australia. Very much in shape, smart young man, hard worker. He traveled with a group of friends to a place called Fix Crossing for the weekend. He had a girlfriend. Girlfriend knew he was going with his buddy. She supported the weekend away. Jack had been working hard. Well, on the night of October 4th, Jack sent a text message to his girlfriend Carly saying good night. Typical, keeping in touch, everything is good. They were at a place called Bomba Creek in Queensland. which is essentially fixed crossing. And it's about 3 hours northwest of Brisbane. The place is known for camping, fishing, hiking, general recreation. He's last seen on CCTV with his buddies in town buying some beer and then getting into a car. So on October 4th, sometime between 8 and 10 p.m., his buddy said he got up in the middle of the night and took a walk. Didn't say anything. Nobody was quite sure where he was going or what he was doing. A lot of people thought he was maybe going to the bathroom. But they all went to sleep. They'd been drinking. They wake up the next day. He wasn't around. They called his parents, making sure that he hadn't gotten a ride home, called his girlfriend. Nobody had seen him. And so on October 5th, his parents filed a missing persons report. Well, his buddies searched the area for him, didn't find him, talked to a lot of people, nobody saw him. It was bizarre. Jack was a very stable person. Wasn't a drunkard, didn't get into trouble, completely out of character. Well, on October 7th, the search actually started for Jack. Drones, dogs, ground pounders. In the general fix area, that search found something of concern to you and me. They found Jack's shoes in the grass and his hat. Now that, friends, you know that that's not good. Now, Jack's mom and dad, they got up there, assisted in the search, got interviewed by the news, spoke to his buddies. Searchers complained to the press that it had rained heavily during their search and it had inhibited the results. But divers still went into the water in the areas, searched every bit of the water. The area west of Mclennan was the region where the search and rescue was concentrated. I didn't bring the map with you, I apologize, but it's 3 hours northwest of Brisbane. Now this is Jack Mclennan. His girlfriend was a girl named Carly Beetham. Carly's told the press that Jack would never formally walk away from his friends. And she didn't understand it. And then she went up with the parents, participated in the search. Nothing. Well, on November 22nd, the family and friends got together and did a new search and rescue. And again, they found nothing. Some of the areas were searched 2 to 3 times, still nothing. And then police were starting to get frustrated, and they asked the residents in the area to search their property. They were getting very frustrated. Jack's mom is a mom named Kelly Moody. Show you a picture of the mom. Kelly. Kelly said her son had a magnetic personality and is a very light-hearted soul that is not one to be in conflict. Now, Jack's friends said that night they'd all had a few drinks. This is the part, friends, where I want you to pay attention. Australia cases mimic U.S. cases. I've written a lot about Australia. And the things we have happen in the States happened there, almost to a T. Missing 411, a sobering coincidence. Young, Jack Young, 27, fits the profile, athletic, he's a personal trainer, smart, businessman. Just like sobering coincidence. Drinking with friends. Water all around them. Lakes, creeks, rivers. That's why the guys were there, to hang out. Point of separation. He leaves that campsite sometime between 8 and 10. Why? Sometime after that, he loses his shoes and hat. Missing shoes, missing hat. Why leave these behind? I don't know. It's a very, very frustrating scenario that's carried on into November and part of December. Not found. Jack Mclennan. Keep him in your prayers and in your thoughts, because I know his family is thinking about him every day and had a horrible Christmas because of it. Okay, this next case. One of the strangest ever. Yeah. And it's amnesia related. Yes, an amnesia case. But friends, don't turn away. This one is bizarre. Bizarre for a couple reasons. Missing person is a man named Dale Stafford, 39 years old. Was reported missing May 1st, 1979. He lived in Santa Clara and was employed by a company called FMC. Hold your taters. Santa Clara, it abuts right on the northern side of San Jose, where I worked as a policeman. And in fact, I worked with Santa Clara police undercover officers on a number of cases. Santa Clara was probably the police department 1/10 the size of San Jose. They couldn't field the resources we could. They had one undercover officer, I think. He was an outstanding officer. Salito, if you're watching, greatest partner ever. Bob Salito, greatest partner ever. He and I got teamed up together and were asked to work together on a number of things that crossed jurisdictions. I'll get to that in a minute. So, this missing person report on Dale Stafford was filed by his wife when he failed to come home. Now, Dale was a very stable person. Picture Dale. He'd been employed by FMC for 14 years. FMC was a defense contractor. And he was a foreman in there as a welding foreman. He's born in South Dakota. In his off time, he liked playing cards in Milpitas and in Santa Clara. Well, he doesn't come home one night. Completely out of character. Completely out of character. And his wife reports him. And his truck is missing. Quite a time, like a couple of weeks after this, he reported missing, some citizen finds a wallet next to a freeway in Milpitas. Turns it into the police. It was Dale's. So that was suspicious, obviously. But they knew he last cashed a paycheck on April 18th, 1979 in Milpitas at a card room. Now, a couple of things. You guys are going to laugh. I know Milpitas super well. Milpitas is in Santa Clara County. San Jose is in Santa Clara County. When you're a policeman in San Jose and you arrest a female, you have to take her to a place called Elmwood, which is in Milpitas. It's about a 20-25 minute drive from parts of San Jose. And I drove through there all the time. Now let me give you the breakdown in Milpitas. Smaller city than Santa Clara. Has their own police department. I knew a lot of them. Good people. Not a lot of problems. Just like a normal small community in the Bay Area. Not a lot of problems. Now let's go back to Santa Clara, where Dale lived. Now Dale lived in Santa Clara, and he also worked at FMC in Santa Clara. When I started to put this case together, I couldn't believe all the similarities between Dale and I. Yes, undercover, I worked at Sutter's card room where Dale liked to go. This was years later, decades later. But FMC, at one point, this is decades after Dale was there, contacted our Vice Division and said that they had a drug problem and they needed some help. So this is where I got together with some Santa Clara officers and we worked undercover there. And you're thinking, yeah, sure, Dave. Well, yeah. Look at this. This was my ID card when I worked at FMC. This is true. And no, I didn't go by my real name. You never use your real name. You always use your true first name when you're working undercover. And why is that? You do that because, let's just say a friend of a relative or something sees me and goes, hey, Dave. And I turn my head. Your name better be Dave. So he goes, hey, Dave, what are you doing? And I would just play it off, hey, what are you doing? You know? And then I'd put my arm around him and we'd walk away and I'd explain what I was doing there, and that would be the end of it. But yeah, but I did work there for a while. Not laborious, not like a welder. I had a pass to go anywhere I went. So I went and I sat in the breakout room at lunch and made friends in there, and I just tried to see what was going on, and we worked it for quite a while. So, getting back to Dale now. This is a good story. So Dale's mother and brother lived in SoCal. Again, he last cashed his check April 18th. His wife didn't hear from him, finally called him in as a missing person. Now fast forward several months to November 1979. Rangers from the U.S. Forest Service found an abandoned and unoperable truck deep in the woods in the Stanislaus National Forest, 3 miles north of a place called Long Barn, very close to Yosemite. And I'll show it to you. This is the area that they found it in, Hole Creek. This is Cold Springs, Pinecrest, Strawberry, Bumble Bee. Now, to give you some feeling, Yosemite would be up here, and the Sierra camp that I made our movie about was up in here. So yeah, this was all happening weirdly. All of this involved things that I knew about. So anyhow, Rangers find this truck abandoned. They call in the license plate, and it comes back to a missing person, Dale. And they could tell by the truck had been here for months and hadn't been moved. And their thinking was, well, obviously a missing person. Obviously somebody went hiking and disappeared. And they do a massive search. Canines, helicopters, ground teams. They search everywhere. They don't come up with anything. They're not quite sure what to make of it all. Because Milpitas police have the wallet. He's missing. They're kind of thinking it might be a murder. Who knows? Now, fast forward almost a year, October 29th, 1980, U.S. Forest Service Rangers in the same general area get a call about a man walking through the woods that kind of looked like he was dirty, maybe a vagrant, homeless, just didn't look right for being in the area. So Rangers go into the area and they start searching. Well, they search for a week. They're not finding anything. And then one ranger is walking by this one site and he sees a pipe sticking out of the ground in a very weird area, way up in the woods. So he calls and he gets some other rangers to come over, and they start searching the area, and they find a point where it looked like there was an opening, even though it was kind of covered over. So they open the top, they drop down inside of a 10 by 15 foot room, and there's Dale sitting there. Dale Stafford sitting in this little room. He had a black backpack inside that the Rangers had recognized as being reported stolen from a campsite. They asked Dale about it. He said, no, I found that laying next to a trail. It was abandoned, so I just picked it up. Rangers estimated that Dale had lived there in that structure for at least a year. They said, "How did you make this?" He said, "Yeah, I made it, and I made this stove out of an old holy garbage can, and then I found a piece of pipe and I made the exhaust for it, and during the winters it gets like 5 to 6 feet of snow around here, so it keeps me warm." Brilliant. I'm serious. That's a brilliant job to live in the woods that long. So they asked the man his name, and he said his name was Roger Klein. And then he explained his background. Now that's the weird thing. The background on this person was the same as Dale Stafford. Well, they were asking him, "How do you live here?" And he said, "Well, I do some fishing, and my favorite thing to eat is fried porcupine." He says, "I don't get it very often, but," he says, "I do sometimes, and it tastes like chicken when you fry it." I've never heard that. So, the Forest Service Rangers take him into custody, and they call the Tuolumne County Sheriffs, who took him back to their headquarters. Now, it's illegal to build a facility inside U.S. Forest Service property, and it's illegal to live on U.S. Forest Service property permanently. So they had him on a couple different charges. So they bring him back and they start to question him. And they said he wasn't evasive. He was very friendly. He was positive his name was Roger Klein. That was his picture when he was at the Tuolumne County Sheriff's. And then they asked him, they said, "Well, how'd you get this truck way up there?" And he said, "What truck?" And they explained it to him, and then he said, "I have no idea how I even got into the mountains." He says, "Just one day I ended up here, walking around." He says he really loves living in the woods, and he loves the outdoors. He says winters are a little cold, but he doesn't mind it. He says there's a lot of quiet time up here that he likes. Well, he did match the description of Dale Stafford, and they told him this, and he didn't budge. He said his name is Roger Klein. Well, they called Dale's mother and brother in SoCal, and they actually drove up and met with him. Slowly, he started to say that he did remember being a welding foreman at FMC. Said it was a great job. But he really didn't say a lot more than that he could remember. Detectives speculated that Dale had amnesia. Now this goes way out there on a limb, but they also speculated that he might have been attacked when he was cashing a check in Milpitas, got hit on the head, etc. How he ended up in the mountains with no wallet, no ID, no cash, that is the million-dollar question. Huh? When Dale was with the deputies, just before his mom and dad arrived, his mom and brother, he told the deputies that, "Can I ask you just one more thing?" They said, "Sure." He said, "Could you ask those Forest Service Rangers if I could just go back and live quietly in my little room? Because I really, really like it." And they said, no, it's against the law. And in fact, they're going to dismantle your whole facility, close it up and fill it in. Well, his brother and his mom convinced him to come back to Southern California and live with him. His wife figured he was dead, had written him off, and apparently didn't want much to do with him and didn't even want to hear his story. So he went back to live with his mom and brother. But friends, I don't think somebody could make all that up. I'm sorry. First of all, I can tell you, being a welding foreman at FMC, he was making really good money. And to give up a 14-year defense contractor job like that, I don't think so. I don't think he'd just voluntarily give that up. So, one of those stories, instead of somebody being picked out of the woods and disappearing, somebody was placed back into the woods. Isn't that weird? I appreciate you being here. Huck does too. Huck's asleep right now. But thank you. And the kindness revolution. I tried to be kind to so many people during the holidays. Because the holidays weren't so great for me this year, truthfully. Probably one of the worst ones I've had in years. But Huck and I kept each other positive. And that's the most important thing in life. You got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps sometimes. And we did that together. So I am grateful that you are here. Please make sure that you're still subscribed. Please, and if you're not subscribed, make sure you are. Make sure you're getting notifications. And make sure you bookmark the page for our YouTube channel, because it's a guarantee I'll post every other day. Thank you so much. Huck thanks you so much. Oh, her eyes are open. Kind of giving me the side eye there. You be safe. Paulides out.